So I'd like to talk very briefly about something else with society that really bothers me, and that's wealth distribution. You know how a majority of the world's, or at least our country's wealth is held by such a small percentage of people, the 1%, if I recall correctly, and how nothing is being done to fix this issue. I see examples of it in my own everyday life all the time. And while I don't know anybody personally in the 1%, I do know I live around some very wealthy people, and it's just something that deeply disturbs me. On one hand, I can respect someone living the American dream and building their empire, but on the other hand, like I said in my last video, two truths can be true at the same time, without negating the other one very much. And for example, there's this woman who lives in my neighborhood very recently. She's the person who sold my mother this house. She moved into this neighborhood. She's a very smart woman, clearly. Um, but she has multiple cars in her parking lot. And she has probably, like, if each of these houses are going anywhere from 300 to, like, some are even in $900,000 range, she's easily got millions of dollars, obviously. It's just like she could sell one neighborhood of four houses and make over $1 million easy, in just a matter of months. um and that bugs me because you see so many fancy cars in her parking lot, and then you travel down the road a little bit, and there are people living on the side, literally the side of the highway right next to the train tracks, in tents, with nothing. And it just seems so problematic to me, where we have people, like, with more money than they know what to do with, and then we also, in the same, like, 5 mile radius, have people who can't feed themselves properly, and have to sleep in tents on the side of the road, where they could get hit by a car at any moment. A drunk driver could plow right through there, and suddenly that's 5, 6 lives gone. And this woman is, buying another, she probably owns multiple houses, and she just bought another one in our neighborhood. And it just seems very wrong to me. And it gets even more convoluted when I take into, the the advertisement of this house. My mother purchased the house I'm recording this in, and when she said they were pitching the house to her with this idea that, though there was a water reservoir underneath the house that was infinite. And that bothers me, because nothing in this world is infinite. Everything is finite, especially water. Clean water can be used up super quickly. I mean, every time you do a ChatGPT search or any AI chatbot, you're draining, like, a bottle of water just from that query. The same could be said for when you take a bath. You're wasting gallons of water to clean yourself. And they present it, these wealthy people making these luxury homes are presenting the idea of earth resources as if they are infinite, which is just a logical fallacy that bugs me, and it dictates to the problem that I'm talking about, where we just view these people living in luxury as if they're better than the rest of society, and we keep piling money on them without doing anything about the people who are living on the streets, who don't have access to any clean water. How can you tell me that you have infinite amount of water underneath my house, and the person down the street living in the tent doesn't have access to a water bottle? I don't get it. How can you tell me that you have infinite amount of water and then be hoarding it all to this neighborhood? There's no such thing as infinite amount of water, and it greatly bugs me. Another part that bugs me about this whole housing situation is the people that sell these houses. They market them as luxury, high-end houses, like, oh, all the posh people live here. There's a few things that bother me, and I'm going to get into each of them. They market it as this posh residency, where, all the socialites live and reside, and, everyone in this neighborhood is perfect. But then you take a look at the building material that went into this house, and it's all shoddy, like, lowest bidder material. Like, For example, our water heater, we had to have it repaired within the first year of living here. Our garbage disposal that came with the house is broken, and we have to go out and hit the switch on the circuit breaker to turn on and off our garbage disposal, because if we don't, the garbage disposal will run indefinitely. Our microwave. The numbers after 5 years have vanished from the microwave. Our oven in the first year of living there, it's a smart oven. It doesn't have Wi-Fi capabilities that I know of, but it's got a touch screen on it, and the touch screen has failed on us numerous times, which means we can't use our oven sometimes because the interface is irresponsive. And it's really weird to me because they're marketing it as these luxury homes, but they're built on the poorest material around. There's no doubt about it that I could punch a hole through this wall behind me and see the outside if I put enough force into it, and it wouldn't have to be that much force. The house we lived in prior to this, we built that house and then moved into it. And in the 10 years we lived in that house, we never had any of these problems. In the first year of living in this luxury home, we were experiencing all different sorts of problems that we had to deal with. And it just seems weird that these people are marketing this luxury home when really we live in plywood. It breaks all the time. Our furnace acts up all the time, and it just seems like, how can you market all of this so infactually and not be held accountable for it? It feels like fraud in a way when we purchased this house, because we purchased this house thinking that it would last for tens of years, but I'd be surprised if these homes around me aren't falling down in 10 more years from now. While the home we moved from, that I grew up in, that house is perfect. I'm sure if I lived there, I wouldn't be experiencing any difficulties. It was a very well built home. But now the pursuit of money for these really wealthy people, they're offering off these poorly built homes so that they can make hundreds of millions of dollars off of us. These are wealthy people that are buying these homes. I live right down the street from an Intel corporation, so a lot of these people are workers at Intel that are pulling in massive amounts of dollars, big breadwinners. So they're buying these fancy homes, and they're getting ripped off. There's no such thing as infinite water at the very least. And then another thing that really bothers me about this neighborhood and the people selling homes in the market is they say they market it off as this safe neighborhood that a lot of police are in the area and it's highly patrolled and no crime occurs, and that's false. That's not true at all. A lot of crime isn't reported in this area because a lot of criminals are getting away with crimes. They're not being found guilty from a jury of their peers. They're committing these crimes and then getting away with it, never even getting detained by the police. And that's why it appears like it's safe. There's a bar within a mile walking distance, same right now, right where the people that live in the tents are, and I went down there and there was a man bragging about how he was attacking children. The same man I heard rumors was going around the bar purposefully trying to sleep with women to give them AIDS because he and his wife enjoyed giving people AIDS. Really sinister shit is happening in this neighborhood that's not making the news because these people aren't being held accountable for their actions, and their victims are too scared to speak up against it. That my mailbox was stolen and nobody was ever found about that. They didn't mention in the advertisement for these homes that we live right across the street from the ghetto. Down the street, in that area I was telling you about, the bar, there's actually 5 bars in less than half a mile in one little strip mall. There's also a porn shop where there's a glory hole and sexual deviants congregate there on a daily basis. There's 2 strip clubs on the same highway where the tents are. It's very ghetto. There's drive-by shootings. There's people with machetes holding up the local I wanted to say Quickie Mart, but it's the local market, the local mom and pop shop. It's all shit that these wealthy people are pushing under the rug so that they can sell and make millions of dollars, while these people in poverty don't even realize that they're living in like a very dangerous neighborhood. I almost got murdered twice in the 5 years that I've been here. Multiple people have drawn swastikas down the street where I live from, and they're telling me it's a safe neighborhood, and I don't get it. It's all I think derived from the wealth distribution, where the people with all the money are painting the narrative, while the people who aren't in the know have to suffer the consequences. I would have never agreed to live here if I would have known that I would have been in danger's way so much. There's like, I call it the salty spittoon, because it's filled with grime heads that are always bragging about crimes they've committed. There's a graffiti problem everywhere, and I think if we taxed the wealthy, these problems would start disappearing, because a lot of these criminals are doing this to feed themselves. And if they had better access to education that came through taxpayers' dollars, maybe they'd have something to do other than write silly shit in the neighborhood. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.